Welcome back to Epilepsy Moms. Today we are going to be meeting a new friend who has had epilepsy in his life. My name is Summer and my son has tonic-clonic and absent seizures.
And my name is Liz and my daughter has focal epilepsy in her temporal lobe.
And I am Zach and I have grand mal seizures.
And can you tell everyone how old you are?
I am 26.
Actually, Zach is my husband's cousin, and so that's how I know him, and we thought it would be great to have him on and give his perspective just from a young adult of what it was like to go through high school having epilepsy. So Zach, can you tell us a little bit about how that was, like what age or what grade you were in when you found out you had epilepsy?
I was in my junior year of high school, and I was 17. My second year of football practice at it, and my position was nose tackle before I had the seizures, and made the first tackle of the year, made the first fumble of the year, and like everybody was like praising me and stuff, and I was the skinniest guy on the team, so I was like the underdog basically, and I think it was like a week later or like a month later. I mean, first after that is when I had my first seizure. I was at home. It was very, very strange. I remember waking up and I was in my bathroom, and that's when I had my first seizure.
Who found you?
Oh, my grandmother found me. She was the first one to find me. How it all kind of started, the seizure, was that I was getting up. I got ready to go, get everything ready for school. And I remember looking in the mirror, and I just sit there, and then all of a sudden, like, I couldn't hear anything, and I just remember like falling over to the side. And when I did, I hit my head on the side of the tub. And when I did, surprisingly, my head was fine. My grandmother describes it that I blacked out. Basically, when I blacked out for a little bit, she said, "You seized for quite some time." And then they said after that, you kind of woke up and we could see your eyes, and you were telling like you were kind of just mumbling, and the paramedics picked me up, and I had no idea what was going on. I didn't even know what a seizure was at the time. I remember getting into the hospital, and when I got there, I remember sleeping for quite some time and then waking up. My head felt terrible, and I had this like big welt on my head. My grandparents coming in checking up on me. And then the doctor kind of came in and kind of talked and said, "Hey, by the way, you had a grand mal seizure." And I sit there and I was like, "Okay, all right." And I was like, "I just need to know one thing. Am I going to be able to still play football and do my sports and stuff?" Because I was just told that I was doing I just got put the first string nose tackle. And they're sitting there, and then they're kind of like, "Yeah, you're not going to be able to play football." And I was like so bummed out about it. I remember being like devastated. They said it usually happens to people around your age. It's kind of like a thing that just you're born with, and it kind of like, or you have, it kind of just lasts for the rest. It's going to last for the rest of your life. I was in special education all my life. And so they're like, "Yeah, like you've been bullied, like because I was bullied and everything." And so anyway, I just made friends. They felt really bad for me.
Right.
And then
because they basically crushed your dreams of having a football career or having anything that you had.
And it sounds like you had finally found your place. Like you found a spot that was good for you. You were on the football team, loving it, working hard at it, and then boom, you can't. You're not allowed.
Yeah, it was devastating. Now my football coach knew. Some of the teachers for some reason, my weight training coach didn't know.
Hmm.
And my weight training coach, he never had no idea. So I kind of got away with having weight training. I was happy, and all my friends were kind of like, they kept quiet about it. And after a while, I kind of just I worked out like crazy, and I loved working out. That was my favorite class. I felt, I felt normal, because most my life when I was in special education classes, we were kind of looked at like we were not like regular, like we were kind of just like the outcast. Being prodded at and looked at was terrible.
Yeah. Do you think it took away some of your happiness and like joy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But then when I had seizures, like everybody, like they looked at you a lot more.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, they're looking at me more than usual, and I kind of noticed that. But I knew they cared. But at the same time, like I was like, I had to balance it out and tell the difference between both. And it was easier to hide the special education than it was seizures.
Zach, I really want to know what happened with the weight training class. So it sounds like you did not tell them. You were so excited that you were sneaking into this weight class without being told to get out because of epilepsy. What happened with that when you continued going to class?
Well, I was doing so good in my weight training. I was at the prime of my peak in my weight training. And one day with workouts that I'd normally do. And anyway, I hear the whistle beep. So they whistle, and I was like, all right, time to go in. So I jump up, and the machine had had like a thing that would go over your chest. So I got right up. I jumped up. And when I jumped up, blackout. Everything went black. And I remember that very specifically. Now imagine waking up and all you see is red. That's what I saw. It was just red. And I was like, what in the world? I sit there, I looked up, and I was like, what is going on? And I hear one of my football friends like yelling my name. And they're like, hey, hey, hey. And I was like, yeah. Like, are you okay? Are you okay? Okay. And I was like, and I sat there, I asked them, I said, why are you yelling my name? And it's like, why is it all red? Why do all I see is red? And they're like, oh, well, you got blood all over your face. So I get my hand up and I wipe my eyes out, and I just like, it was like all over my face. What happened was I flipped over the machine, and when I did, I landed straight on my nose.
Oh,
part of my nose ripped off, broke my nose. The weight training coach, which I felt so bad for, he didn't have an idea of it. And when he found out, he was like, so sad for me, because he had a niece that went through the same thing. But at the same time, he's like, oh my gosh, he's like he was scared that he could get in trouble because no one knew. And then the principal was there, the vice principal was there, everybody was there, the paramedics was there. And that was the first time and the only time I had it at school. Yeah. And I felt so bad because I put my coach in that position. And when I realized what I did, I was like, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. And I felt really bad. And, a lot of people were telling me like, we would have done the same thing in your shoes. And I was like, well, I still shouldn't have done that. Right. Because that put him in such a bad position. But he let me finish out the year in the class, but he just wouldn't let me work out at all. I became what's the name of the student? It was kind of like a
like an assistant or something.
Yeah. I became the book person, and I hated that. I hated that with a passion.
But at least you got to stay with the class until the end of the year, even though you couldn't really work out. But
at that point, it got to my head to the point where that was like one of the things I was mainly focusing on. And, going through that and getting used to that and not being able to work out, joke around, and
you're separated again from everybody.
Yeah, it felt in a way, it felt like I was back in middle school, but it was like a different type of like situation in a way. It felt similar to being like left out and looked at and prodded at, but it also felt different because it was a new situation. It was a new thing. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to do the same old, except I just can't do this, or this.
Right.
Yeah. So I had to be very careful what I drank, what I ate. You know, like I had to be careful on how I got up, how I got down.
Because you didn't know like what the triggers were, or
yeah, I was scared. I was scared on my mind. Like I like jumping over stuff. I like parkouring over stuff. I couldn't really do that anymore.
So you're just kind of on, pins and needles, not knowing, is it going to happen again? When is this going to happen?
And practically, and then when I did that for a while, I ran into this like phase where I just got mad, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Yeah,
and then I just forget it, and I just rebelled against it, and I started having seizures at home. Like they happened, but they didn't happen like together side by side. They happened like on a rare blue moon, and I hated it. And I'd take medicine. The medicine helped out for quite some time. Like keeping things quiet with the seizures was easy from peers and students and friends. It was easy. I mean, they knew, but they didn't really talk about it. That's what it was like for many years.
Yeah, Liz has some really good questions for you, Zach. Since I kind of know your story a little more, I don't have as many, but I think Liz has a lot of really good ones. So,
what was your biggest fear with your epilepsy diagnosis?
My biggest fear was having it in class with everybody around.
And since that happened, how did you react with that? Like, how did you react with your peers with, since it did happen in front of people?
But I was also very like devastated about it too.
Yeah.
But but yeah, like to answer your question, that was my biggest fear, them finding out and then me having to explain myself.
I think it's really good for parents to hear that, because that's what we want to know. We want to know what our kids are worried about. And
especially with Summer, because her son is going into high school, and is he in high school already? Yeah. So I mean, it's gotta be hitting close to home for her.
Right. Yeah.
Who was your biggest help or inspiration through your whole epilepsy journey?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm trying to it's been such a long time. And it's just through school, right?
At all. Like it can be like a grandparent or a friend who's just kind of stuck by your side.
I'd have to say my grandmother, my grandparents, even my dad, and ultimately God, because it was so difficult going through all of that. And when my dad, when he was alive in high school, and when he knew I had these seizures, he was like looking at me, he's like calling me up, asked me if I was okay, and was like really worried. And because he knew a lot more about it than I did, because he was a paramedic at one point. So he knew a lot more. So he was, and ironically enough, my other grandmother on my biological side of the family, on my mother's mother, she had seizures.
Oh, okay.
So that it was through the family. We ended up finding out it was through the family how I got it. So it was biologically the grand mal seizures. And
makes sense.
And they told us very specifically, they're like, these things happen like lightning. They don't have no warning. They have no like symptom or sign. It's like boom, done.
Sure.
So when you had the seizure in the weight room, did you have an aura, or did you feel different, or like something was?
No, I felt great. Before I had that seizure, I remember specifically what I was feeling. I was feeling great. And I just got done doing bar push-ups, even though my grandmother told me 100 times not to do it. Yeah, so that there was a lot of times she told me like, hey, just don't do that or that. And I'm like, I would get mad because I was like, no, like I want to do what I want to do because I love weight training. And that was one of my favorite things, was doing the bar push-ups. So I told her, I said, Liz, I told her, because she knew I was obviously going to do it. So I told her, like, I'll only do 20. I won't go anywhere over, except for that one day I went over. But that was just that one time. But I went to 40. So anyway, I did that, and I was doing pull-ups, and no one was in the class. It was just me.
Yeah.
And it felt great. And Rocky IV music was playing. It was my favorite workout music, No Easy Way Out. And then the other one, I forgot the name of it, but it's the end of the Rocky IV music. It's at the end of the movie. But I just loving it. And I was kicking it. And then I was working out, and I felt fantastic. I've never felt that great physically. I felt wonderful. It was like,
and then it just happened.
I heard the whistle, jumped up, bam, out.
Wow.
There was no aura, there was no warning, there's no, and that's the thing with me. It was always like, I'm out. There is no warning. That was another fear I had, a little slight fear, because without no warning, there's no way I can detect it.
Yeah.
So there's no way a teacher can detect it. So when they would try to ask me, like, how do you feel before you have a seizure? I sit there and laugh. I said, I don't have no idea. Like,
you're like, I feel great.
Yeah, like I usually I feel great, and it just happens. So there's no point in you asking me these questions.
Yeah. So frustrating. Yeah. Well, and has it been hard keeping like long-lasting friends and friendships? Just having the diagnosis, because like other people were scared.
Most of my friends in high school, they went off and did their own thing.
Okay.
But some of them that stuck around, like they didn't really, it wasn't really a big deal to them. And the thing is, the people that didn't know, the people that really didn't know, were like there was these two girls that didn't know. And that one of them was a good friend of mine, and another one was her twin sister. And they asked me, and I said, "Wait, you guys are asking me to go hang out with you after school?" Yeah, like it was on a Saturday, and they wanted to go swimming. It was hot. I was like, ooh, swimming, seizures. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Thinking, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get away with it and do it. And they said our parents aren't going to be home at all. Just going to be us. We're just going to be in the pool. It's just going to be the three of us. And I was so happy. I just remember sitting there, and I was like, there's no way my grandmother is going to be okay with this. I tell them, like, I would love to. You have no idea how much I would love to. I sit there and I said, my grandparents, unfortunately, one, couldn't get me there, and two, even if they could, they wouldn't be okay with it. It's a good thing I didn't go to that.
There's a lot of parents who don't know what to do, who have teens that are deciding given these choices, and the teens will decide. And you took the high road, and that's great. I mean, that's what we parents want, is for our kids just to be responsible and take care of their own health and let us know what's going on. And you definitely did the right thing. And it's hard to do.
Even though it was hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was very hard
to do. But it's one of the things we worry about as parents. And we're always like, oh, are they going to be okay? Are they going to make those right choices?
So basically you don't really have them anymore, is what you're saying.
Well, I didn't have them for quite some time.
Okay.
Until now.
Okay, so the medication was working for a long time, and then now you still have them.
I got off the medication.
Okay, wait. Let's finish really quickly. So, Zach, what happened is your EEGs were showing that you weren't having any activity when you were 21 years old. And so they didn't really want you to go off the medication, but you told them you prefer to. And so they said, okay, you can go ahead and go off. And you did. And then you felt this freedom of, wow, I'm not regulated. I'm not having to be stuck to my medicine bottle anymore. And then you felt better because you were off the medication, right?
Yes, it felt great. And life ended up hitting me. And so I was having all this freedom, going places, doing things, downtown, everything. And that's when I call that life. I just kind of did what I wanted. And I felt like I was an adult and I can do this stuff. Right. And when it unraveled itself and I spiraled out of control for a little bit.
So then if we fast forward to when you were, what, 25, 24, 25? And then your seizures came back, right?
So my seizures came back recently, this year, 26. And
you started having tonic-clonics again?
Yes. Well, the grand mal, I started having them. The whole room was coming down on me. I started having these things when they ended up finding out they were auras.
Auras? So you're having auras. Right now, at this point, Zach has been re-diagnosed with epilepsy, and he's waiting to meet with his neurologist to discuss what they're going to do. You are currently on Keppra, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm on Keppra, where I take 1,000. Yeah, 1,000 a day.
I think is helping control a little bit, but he still had a few. So
yeah.
So he needs to go see that neurologist, and
well, the only reason why I had a few is because I ran out of my medication right after I ran out of my medication. So
yeah, so you ran out and then had a seizure.
Yeah,
and then they finally finished the meds, which is something that's been happening a lot lately, where pharmacies right now are not able to keep up with the medication that people need. That's happened to us. We switched pharmacies, and sometimes you have to call, like, as a parent, that's where you have to advocate. Okay, so Liz, you have your next question.
So are you worried about, like, future jobs, knowing about you having epilepsy, or maybe it hindering you getting a job by any means?
I mean, I've had fears about that.
Yeah,
I've had fears. I mean, that's an understandable thing to have fears about.
And I know that one of the reasons that we have you on the blacked out screen tonight is because you don't want any potential employers seeing you on here and just making a preconceived idea about you and your health.
Yes, I have a worry about that, because you can never be too careful, and I'm not trying to judge any employers,
right?
But as I just didn't want them to get to the point where they look at me and say, well, you have seizures, so we're going to find an excuse.
Right.
And there's laws in place
to protect that. Yeah. Now that you're an adult, do you feel like you're still alone, even though there's millions of people around the world and there's people around in your family who have gone through this? Like, do you still feel alone and isolated, like, in general?
YouTube channels like this, people talk more about seizures today, because it is an actual thing, like shows like The Good Doctor. I'll tell you, I feel better than I have in my whole entire life. Yes, I still go through struggles, and yes, I go through ups and downs, but I feel like I'm on cloud 9 when everything's normal. when the day's going normal, I feel like I'm on cloud 9. I'm extremely blessed. I have an amazing girlfriend that is wonderful, but the journey with the seizures, kind of, in a way, and the bullying and the growing up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel like I'm alone. But
Good.
at the same time, because of videos, YouTube video channels like this, or TV shows, you know, they're really looking on the fact. I'll give it a benefit of the doubt. There's a lot of shows, a lot of TV shows, people looking at the fact that, hey, special education, seizures, you know, going hand in hand, and
they're
being
very
able to
normal things.
tell. Yeah, like they're normal things. They happen a lot. And it's a different world, in a different school world.
Yeah.
They're not poked and prodded at. I have a very good feeling, and I hope it comes true. But I have a really good feeling that it's going to get so advanced, special education is, that that's going to be, there's not going to be regular education and special education. There's just going to be one really coming together. And it's going to change everything. There's going to be mixtures of classes, and there's going to be, and it's going to be so great to the point where everyone just absolutely loves school and never has to go through what my friends did or what I did.
Yeah.
They can be open about it. And, or they don't have to be
what you're saying
it.
now is, you know, it's so much different. You feel so much different now than you did as a child, and in school even, where you felt alone then, and now you have resources. And I'm so happy that our videos are helping you, because that's why we made them, because we didn't want people feeling alone. Like, there are other people out there with this and with other things, and nobody should have to feel like they're the only one or that they're alone.
Yeah. I can definitely, you know, explain to you, like, so with my daughter, she is obviously with an epilepsy diagnosis, and she has an IEP, which is an individualized it's an individualized education plan. And it's specifically formed just for her and her medical need, not her medical needs, her schooling needs. Now, she also has a 504 plan. So there's so many different things in the school system now that has been placed that makes it a little bit easier for kids to go through it. They're not just thrown into the, you know, special education classrooms. They have, so like, even though she has this IEP and this 504 plan, it doesn't mean that she has to be ostracized into this one specific category. She's able to be in a general education classroom, because she can, you know, she can talk just fine. She can act fine. Like, she has a medical thing, but she's also not having to be specifically looked at as a medical diagnosis. So they do have it to where, like, if your child ever had to go through that, they are definitely forming new things every couple of years to make things better for kids, so they're not feeling so, you know, like pushed to the side, and they're not alone. And because, like, those special ed, you know, a lot of the kiddos in the special ed classes are, you know, kiddos with like Down syndrome and severe autism, and you know, and while that's amazing that they have that for them, not everyone fits in that category. And so when you're not the one that kind of fits in that category, you feel like you're almost the outcast. As where then you should be with the people who are with your peer, like, you should be with your peers that are a little bit more like you or have something that's similar, you know. So I can definitely see, you know, what you're talking about through your journey, how it was so frustrating for you, and how you felt ostracized because you weren't, you know, you felt alone just because you didn't have anyone to help you through it and to feel like you weren't alone in it. But they do definitely now have a lot more support resources for kiddos who have this diagnosis and lots of other diagnoses. Really great to talk to you. Thank you for telling us your story. Really appreciate you coming on here and explaining how things were for you and your story. Just your whole journey through this whole thing so far has definitely been a big eye-opener for us, and I'm sure a lot of other parents. So thank you for coming on here and telling us your journey.
I think this is really eye-opening for parents, just to hear the perspective of a high school student and the fears that they have and the worries that they have about what their peers are thinking and their teachers are thinking, and being, pulled out of certain classes, not being able to do electives maybe that they are looking forward to. And it is important that we understand what our kids are going through. And like Liz was saying, for me especially, like my son is in that, he's in high school, and it's a hard thing when your child is going to school worried every day. So it was a good reminder of just talking to our kids, finding out why it is they don't want to go today. Is there some reason for that? And does it have to do with their epilepsy?
Yeah. So your story's not over.
Your story's just begun.
That's good news.